Hey everybody, welcome to Tomb of Terrors. I'm your host, Old Man Brad. I've been wanting to say that for a long time. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for giving me a listen. If you are returning for another episode, as you can see, there is a title change to the show. I'm changing it from Old Man Brad to Tomb of Terrors. It's something that's been in the works for a while. I've been wanting to bring this out. I wasn't going to do the new title until next week, but I couldn't hold it in any longer. So this is the first episode with the new title, new artwork, new everything else. Still the same show where I will talk movies, do interviews, bring in friends, and just have a good time talking horror. If you love the show, drop me a review on your favorite podcast app. Or you can become a patron, patreon.com/oldmanbrad. That will not change. And for this first one, I'm going to be talking FrightFest and the movies that I watched that were part of the FrightFest Film Festival. It just happened over this past week and through the weekend. There are 7 movies that I'm covering for FrightFest. One of them I haven't watched yet, and I have an interview coming soon for the film. That film is Super Happy Fun Clown, directed by Patrick Ray. I will be talking to him here this week. Watch for that episode coming next week, where we will talk about his time at FrightFest and the film and everything else. The other films that I'm going to talk about in this episode, your host, Self-Help, Pig Hill, 213 Bones, The Haunted Forest, and Noseeums. There were many, many more movies that played during FrightFest. A few that I do want to see, like one, I believe it's called The Red Mask. It looked very interesting. Looked like a different take on a slasher film. It looked really, really fun, really gory. But I also have 2 interviews for you here as we go through. Both these interviews, I talked to the directors before FrightFest, so I won't be able, they won't talk about their screenings at FrightFest. It was kind of leading up to that. And that is with Erik Bloomquist, the writer and director of Self-Help, and Keith Boynton, the writer and director of The Haunted Forest. Those will drop as I am talking the films, but this is just going to be all FrightFest, everything I watched for FrightFest. So let's get into it. The first film I'll be talking about is Your Host. This is directed by D.W. Medoff. 4 friends get trapped in a sadistic game show, forced to outwit a twisted serial killer while racing against time. Every move brings them closer to freedom or a gruesome fate. Like I said, this is directed by D.W. Medoff, and it stars Ella Ray Smith, Jamie Flatters, David Englund, Joel Ray, and Jackie Earle Haley. This movie, it very much has an influence with Saw. I mean, you have traps set up. Jackie Earle Haley plays the bad guy in it. He captures these people and sets them up in a game show. And each kind of game has a series of traps or certain things that really make you think of the Saw franchise. There's even, at the very end, there's a scene you can tell, like, they're like, you know what, we're leaning into this. It is like a Saw scene, like legitimate, recreated from Saw. But that's not a bad thing. Like, it was a very enjoyable watch. Jackie Earle Haley in this movie goes full on just wild craziness. You could tell he was having a blast in this role of this kind of like a Jigsaw-esque character setting these traps up, this game, teaching characters a lesson. Kind of as it went along, it made me think of Bill Moseley's Otis from House of Thousand Corpses, or even Sid Haig's Captain Spaulding. He just reached deep down and just went for it. It made the movie that much more fun. And this film does not skimp on the blood. It is bloody. It has a mix of kind of CG blood and practical effects. There are a few scenes where you can see it, but it's meshed really well. There's one kill in particular that I really, really liked. I'm not going to tell you what it is. In the end, I had a fun time with your host. I thought it was a really enjoyable horror watch, and it's one, add this to your watch list. Watch for your host coming out in the future. It's just a bloody, head-splitting fun time. So next up, let's do our first interview. Let's talk about Self-Help. This is written and directed by Erik Bloomquist, co-written by his brother, Carson Bloomquist. A young woman infiltrates a dangerous self-actualization community after her mother becomes entangled with its enigmatic leader. This movie stars Amy Hargreaves, Jake Weber, Landry Bender, Madison Linz, Erik Bloomquist, and many others. This is an interesting film. I'll talk a little bit more about it after we hear my chat with Erik. Let's jump into my interview with Erik Bloomquist, and I'll talk to you a little more about Self-Help after that. My guest today has written and directed such films as She Came from the Woods and Founders Day. His new film, Self-Help, which had its world premiere at the Chattanooga Film Festival, is getting ready for its premiere at FrightFest in London. I want to welcome in Erik Bloomquist. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. How did you wrote this film with your brother, Carson. How did you guys come up with the idea for Self-Help?
We've always liked cult movies and lore and true crime kind of stuff. And it was interesting to see how the internet has shaped that as of late and what community means and the lengths people will go to do that and be part of something like that. So, but at the same time, we kind of like this Halloween on the margins kind of feeling. And if there was a way to combine the two with masks and identity and things like that, we kind of just figured there was something in there to mine. And so that's how we started.
Now, as you kind of dug into, you said fascinated with the culture, the cults, the psychology, manipulation, both online and in group settings. Like, as you kind of dug into that, were there things that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe stuff like this happens. We got to throw something like this in our movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think just the lengths that people will go and the money that will be spent now to fulfill a fantasy that they, maybe vehemently believe is not a fantasy, but maybe somewhere inside of them recognize is. But a lot of, like, what do we say? The illusion of intimacy, how much people want to crave to be connected in a world that ironically, one might say we're as close as we've ever been, but I think there are a lot of people who feel as far away as they've ever been. There's some stuff that wasn't even like necessarily inspiring for the movie. It was happening in tandem to the movie in terms of like headlines for choices some people have made that might drift into spoiler territory a little bit. But we just, Amy Hargreaves and I, who we text back and forth, and she plays the mom of the lead character, and she is wrapped up in this world, this cult world with this cult leader, and we will just swap headlines back and forth about people that she's like, it's not that far-fetched what we're doing.
And you said Amy Hargreaves plays the mom in the film. There's this mom-daughter relationship and kind of how it's set up. How did working with that relationship, did they kind of get together and be like, okay, this is how strained our relationship is, this is what we need to do, like kind of how did you work through that?
We had a dinner before, me, Carson, Landry, who plays Olivia, and Amy. We just kind of got to know each other and got comfortable but talked about the dynamic and how, like, who's had to mother who's had to take care of who, the degree of how that's been articulated and not articulated, and who's responsible for what and why, and a little bit on the timeline about what and why their relationship is fractured, what keeps them coming back. Because we've looked at her character a little bit like a spiritual cousin of Jenny and Forrest Gump, who has been drifting through life for decades and trying on different identities and maybe sticking to them for 6 months or a year and then disappearing again and then reemerging and trying something back. And that level of desperation, but also like some kind of pilot light of hope within her to find that click. And I think that's what both of these characters kind of latch onto, because ultimately I think they want the same thing, which is like some kind of equilibrium and peace, but I think the methods and the self-analysis makes that a little tricky.
Ultimately, the characters, depending on what they believe and what they follow, they think they're doing the same thing, but not so much. In this film, it does mix a lot of thriller, mystery, horror, family drama. And how did you go about kind of balancing the tone so you didn't try to lean, I don't want to lean too much this way or too much that way?
I think this is probably most similar tonally to my first movie, which was a contained erotic slow burn chamber thriller in a house and about relationships. It was about an older it was about somebody who got a letter from an older half brother he never knew he had, inviting him to a surprise one-on-one family reunion at his mansion, and his live-in girlfriend and the weird relationships and how that shifted based on who was in the room and if they were all in the room and who was saying to what, and how who we are basically changes based on the context that we're in. So that's always been something that's fascinated us, and this idea of loneliness and the idea of, I'm outside of a system, I'm away from school, I'm away from job. So this was a way to revisit that. So we kind of had a grip on what that was from that movie called Long Lost, which has these black comedy elements that kind of emerge from this place of desperation, which is the same place a lot of the conflict and the scares come from as well. But we always want there to be some kind of little sense of play amidst the whole thing. And I think that the Halloween undercurrent of it all allows that kind of like teeter-totter of going into these kind of like harder, meaner moments, and then like moments where hopefully there's a laugh at the absurdity of it. But ultimately that comes, I think, from talking to the actors and just making sure we're all on the same page about the movie that we're making, and letting people feel free to try things, and kind of just calibrating that in the edit. It's like, I'm sure a lot other people have used this metaphor, but a chef will, taste the soup as they go, and I need a little more salt, I need more. So fortunately we had the pieces and we could make it to taste.
You mentioned about previous films, single location. This one mostly takes place in a single area. Were there any constraints that you had setting it at this location?
We wanted to make sure it was, much of the middle section of the movie takes place at this estate, this compound. So we wanted to make sure that there was visual interest throughout that. So fortunately, the location allowed that with the land that it was on and the types of rooms that it had. But it was important to us in the writing of it and the doing of it that you feel that it is taking place in a greater world. So in the prologue, I mean, you're starting and you're in the middle of this kind of like dizzying childhood birthday party and leaving college. And so we want it to feel that we are isolating you from that without it feeling cinematically claustrophobic. I think the characters feel claustrophobic once they're there, but it was important that the location allowed for different nooks and crannies that could evoke certain feelings and scares and things like that. So the location ended up being really, really great. This wonderful manor house just tucked away in this little corner of West Virginia.
How long was the shoot for Self-Help?
We shot in a rapid fire 11 days.
Wow. Okay. Quick in and out.
Yeah.
Doing that, I mean, I've talked to many indie filmmakers about they usually have a shorter schedule. What challenges did you have with that, as far as, obviously some you might not, I'm not going to get as much coverage or extra coverage that I want here, but I got to do with what I got.
I mean, you always want to play more and have more time, but we've, knock on wood, gotten very good at being selective and thoughtful and shooting for the edit. I think that's the benefit of Carson and me editing too. And so and having that trust with our cast that I promise we only need the one, we have what we need. And if you want one more, we can do one more, but having that be a conversation piece. So I think you mitigate those challenges early on by having those conversations and by having pre-conceptualized as much of it as you can, which leaves room for the play and improvisation. But of course, there are moments where it's like, oh, it would be great to have one more shot here, or that was such a fun discovery. We have it, but it'd be fun to like keep playing with that or have more toys for big shots. We had some really cool days on this that I think would have been impossible in a lot of other contexts where we're, jumping location to location and kind of lily padding one to the other, where, a skeleton crew was here while a skeleton crew is sitting up there, and we just boom, 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 boom. Which is honestly some of my favorite parts of doing this too, is that it does, in the making of it, have that sense of play and community, and we're pulling something really amazing off together. I think that's to the movie's benefit, even in subconscious ways.
And you have a small, impactful role in the film as well. How do you balance kind of like the in front and behind the camera?
I find that I do it when I feel like I can contribute to the film in that way. And I've been doing it for a while, going in and out of projects. And I think that, there are times where it helps, like I can direct from within the scene, like, and just sort of set a tone with my performance and pace it out and things like that. And if I'm doing that, Carson's behind the camera and watching things. So in a way, like acting, it truly is my roots. Like I was a theater kid growing up, acted semi-professionally in high school and professionally out of college. And so that's really what everything else that I do in film has emerged from. So in some ways, acting is like the exhale, ironically, which helps with everything else. But it really keeps me on the ground and in the community with everybody else. So I really do love it. And especially with like I mean, we've worked with Amy before and we have a rapport. And there was an original draft of the script where there was a little less of me. And she's like, "What happens to Owen? I want to know more." And I was like, okay, now I have an idea. But it's great to be able to collaborate in that way. And I think it makes me able to communicate with folks more as a director because I speak that language too.
You had world premiere at Chattanooga, and then FrightFest is coming up soon. As people see the movie, what do you hope audiences take away from Self-Help?
I think the biggest question we're asking is like, what is yourself, and to what extent is that fundamental? I mean, does it fundamentally change, or is it just a matter of acclimating to your situation? When are you performing and when are you not? And what ties and knots with relationships exist? Just, I think reflecting on that is an interesting thing. Like, what does it really mean to be yourself, and does that change from time to time? But ultimately, we just want, it's a spooky Halloween tinged movie, as I said, and I think that I hope tickles people in a fun way as well.
As we're kind of coming to the end here, where can people follow along for Self-Help to see, after, as it continues, it's either more festivals or getting out in the world, and people can kind of follow to see where they can watch it eventually.
Yeah, we'll have some more announcements soon. The best channels are probably mainframepictures.com and the Mainframe Pictures Instagram and TikTok, where you have a lot of announcements and content and things like that flying there. So I think that those would be the three places.
Well, Erik, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me about Self-Help, and I wish you all the best with the movie, and hope you'll not only come back on the show and chat with me sometime, but you got to come back through Cincinnati for longer than 24
Heck yeah,
hours.
I had a great time. I was saying, I don't think, was that on the air? No, it wasn't. Cincinnati's great. Go Cincinnati. That was the first city we went to on the way back from shooting this movie. So Cincinnati's kind of part of this movie.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Of course, you too, man.
I want to thank Erik for taking time out of his day again to chat with me. It was fun getting to sit down and talk a little about this Self-Help movie, because this movie is interesting. You have a lot of different kind of themes involved, as far as like the cult mentality, what the internet, how it can sway, influencers and other things online, how it can kind of sway people's perception of things, how people will go through huge lengths to try to fix or other things. Overall, I did enjoy it. This movie did a good job with setting up this kind of like a self-help camp. It has some bloody scenes in it. There are a couple bloody scenes. Jake Weber, he's creepy because he's very kind of calm, kind of almost smooth talking to these people, to where he'll kind of, sway them to do certain things. There are some things in this film that he talks some characters into doing that you're just like, holy crap. It's one of those, like, I'm like, I don't want to say people are so easily swayed, but in this divisive climate and the way things are right now in this world, you can 100% see things like this happening. And it's insanity to me. We won't dive any deeper on that side, but watch for Self-Help. Another one, like, I think most of the movies that I'm going to talk about today, add them to your watch lists and watch for them coming out in the future. Self-Help is another one. Not the top of what I've watched, but I still enjoyed it and would recommend you checking it out. If you love any of Erik's other films like She Came from the Woods, I absolutely love that movie, or Founders Day, or any of his others. But add Self-Help to your watch list and watch for it coming later on down the road. All right, next on my list is Pig Hill. This is directed by Kevin Lewis, who also directed the Willy's Wonderland movie with Nicolas Cage. Carrie had been fascinated by the local legend of the pig people of Pig Hill, revolting creatures who breed and cause havoc in the area. As the 10th woman goes missing, Carrie can't stop thinking that there might be more to these stories. The movie stars Rainey Qualley, Shane West, Shiloh Fernandez, Isabella Brenza, and others. Now, this one, I dug this one. Just like Your Host, this one was bloody film. Like, you dive in wondering about these pig people. It kind of sets up what this legend of Pig Hill. It's dark, gritty. It gets violent in parts. There were times where I'm like, is this going to be like the pig people? Is it Piglet? It's not Piglet. You know, other things are afoot in this area. What I loved in this movie, not only does it have a lot of blood, some great bloody kills, gore, effects, everything, but there's use of color in this that I really like. The way they use light, like red light, blue light, some of that kind of plays into the story itself, what the Pig Hill legend actually is when you find out. It goes, you know, the more you uncover through this, the darker it gets, the more you kind of figure things out until you find out what the legend of Pig Hill really is. There's one scene in this, I always love when movies can do this type of shot well, and it's where you have a car in kind of like almost a misty, foggy kind of area, and then the characters walk in front, so they're silhouetted. And the way this is shot and framed with these characters, it looked awesome. It was my favorite scene of the movie. I love when movies can do that really well. But this one is top of my list for FrightFest that I watched. 100% add this to your watch list and look for it coming in the future, because I really enjoyed Pig Hill. Pig Hill, Your Host were probably my top two of the films that I currently watched. They just hit. They were bloody and just fun watches. So let's dive into the next one. 213 Bones. This is written and directed by the late Jeffrey Prim. As I was researching it, I found out that he passed away suddenly at the beginning of this year. When a group of anthropology students discover human bones and personal property scattered around their campus, it becomes clear that a gruesomely masked maniac is brutally targeting them. And late-night study sessions turn into a frantic race to solve the attacker's identity before they all end up a textbook homicide case. This stars Hunter Nance, Tony Wise, Allegra Sweeney, Simone Lockhart, Liam Woodrum, Mason Kennedy, and many others. This is set in the 90s, and it has a really cool 90s soundtrack to it. Like a 90s alternative soundtrack. I believe this is set up in the Pacific Northwest, like, you know, Seattle, Spokane, up in that area. So it kind of has that 90s grunge alternative soundtrack. Really dug it. You know, some of that stuff I listened to. It has a fun whodunit feeling, like a Scream, with elements that you kind of felt like, oh, these college kids are turning it into, you know, it's like a Scooby-Doo adventure. How are they going to figure out who is doing this? Who's the person behind the mask? Who is this slasher, this killer that is killing people? And the kills, it has some bloody kills in it, which I loved. A lot of these movies, I mean, the blood flowed a lot in a few of them, and I was all in for that. I love a good bloody horror movie, and especially like a slasher whodunit film. You have the blood, you have a mask, it's all set right there for the type of film you want. The film doesn't really break any new ground in, say, the slasher genre, but it is a very enjoyable watch that I was entertained, engaged through the whole thing. So again, this one, add it to your watch list. 213 bones. Add it to that watch list and watch for it coming out. Because if you love like just a fun 90s-ish era whodunit slasher, you'll just have an enjoyable time with it. All right, next up, we're going to have another interview, and that is for The Haunted Forest, written and directed by Keith Boynton. Zach, a high school senior, lands his first job as a scare actor at Markoff's Haunted Forest. He makes friends with the band of misfits who operate the Halloween attraction, but after one of them dies tragically on the grounds, he begins to question his fascination with death and the macabre. This stars Grayson Guaiz, Cedric Gegel, Caitlin Lunardi, Megan Reed, Jamie Bernadette, and others. And this was filmed at Markoff's Haunted Forest, which is an actual haunted attraction place in Maryland. And from what, we'll dive in the interview in just a second. From what Keith said, they only touched just a small piece of this area. Apparently it's giant. Let's dive into my interview with Keith Boynton, and I will chat with you and tell you a little what I thought of the movie on the other side. My guest today has written and directed such films as The Winter House and The Scottish Play. His new film, The Haunted Forest, which will have its world premiere at FrightFest in London on the 23rd. I want to welcome in Keith Boynton. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. So tell everybody a little bit about The Haunted Forest and how'd you come up with the idea for it?
Yeah, so I didn't. I have to fess up. And I have to, most of my movies, I do come up with the idea, but this one was my brother. And I keep mentioning my brother in interviews and I keep not saying his name, which is annoying. So I'll say his name. My brother's name is Devin McEwen. And don't ask me about the different last names. It's a long story, but he and we went to the Haunted Forest, the real life Haunted Forest, which is where we shot the film. We went there together almost 10 years ago now. So that it's a place we've been hearing about our whole lives because it's cousins of ours who run this thing and built it. Built it themselves from the ground up. But we always pictured it as like a cute little thing that our cousins are doing in the woods. And I think to be fair, when it started out, it probably was that. But by the time we saw Markoff's Haunted Forest, it was like one of the craziest things I've ever seen. It was like, imagine if three of your cousins had spent 3 decades building their own theme park in the woods in Maryland. And it's gorgeous. It's huge and it's beautiful. And they get thousands of people coming through there. And we had no idea the scale of this, but also just the depth of detail. It's like Disneyland level quality, but it's all homemade and it's all horrific. And just an incredible magical place. So as soon as we went, we were like, oh my God, this is a movie. This is such a movie. And I got to give my brother the credit. He came up with the whole story outline. We sort of worked on a more detailed outline together. He gave me good notes on the screenplay. So I get the written and directed by credit and hopefully all the glory. But really the whole thing was his brainchild. And I'm glad he thought of it.
And you mentioned Markoff's Haunted Forest. You filmed it at the Haunted Forest itself. How did that come about? Did you say, hey, we came up with this, my brother and I came up with this movie, we want to film it at your Haunted Forest?
Yeah, we went beyond that. We didn't just say we wanted to shoot there, but we basically pitched them like, hey, let's partner up on this thing.
Okay.
So we made the movie together. I sort of brought in my filmmaking team and my world of experience and personnel, but they were full partners on the film. They gave us access not only to their location, but to all of our other locations because they know everyone in the community. We got to use their staff. We got to use their facilities, a lot of their makeup and special effects. And so it was a real team effort. It was not this thing of like, hey, let's rent your location for a few weeks. It was much more like, hey, we're living here and you're living here and we got to make this thing together. So it was like all hands on deck. Yeah.
Did you find any challenges filming at this location of, we got to make sure, I'm assuming it's a pretty large area from what I looked up.
Yeah. What you see in the movie is like maybe 20% of the trail.
Okay.
It's huge. It's massive. So we had to be selective about what scenes we were going to show. We couldn't show all of it. And some of these spots are kind of hard to get at. It'll be in the woods over a creek, and maybe there's an access trail, but also it's nighttime and the access trails are they're not like highways. They're still, paths through the woods. So we had to get our gear truck back there, get our camera cart back there, get our actors back there, try to keep people warm as much as possible. Like we had, garbage can fires going in the woods at night so that we didn't freeze to death. I mean, it was Maryland in November. It was cold, especially at night. We had filmed most of it after the forest had shut down, which meant it had to be after Halloween. So the logistical challenges were significant. And we had basically no money. Like we're an ultra low budget film. We had very, very little money. So we weren't like putting actors in trailers or anything. The garbage can fire was about the best that we could do for them.
How long was your shoot there at the Haunted Forest?
We had 18 shooting days.
Okay.
So it's just about 4 weeks. And it was tight. It was like every night we were pushing the limit of what we could do. And sometimes we did go overtime a little bit. Which honestly, I think stressed me out more than anyone, because I've made like the last few movies, I made such a point of like, we're not going to do crazy overtime. We're going to wrap it a 12-hour day. Maybe there's overtime, including the wrap out, but like we try to be as tight as possible. And there was one night in particular that I remember really well. We had this blood effect that we really, really wanted to get, but we were shooting everything else first, right? All the coverage, and it was this like long, complex fight sequence and all these moving parts. And we got to a point where we were like, I think at least an hour over time already. And it's like 4 a.m. and I was exhausted. And I was like, guys, the blood effect, it sounds great. I don't know if we need it. I don't know if it's necessary. Like maybe we should go home. And it was my beautiful assistant cameraman, Bryant, who we've made 4 movies together now. And he looked at me and he was like, dude, we're here. Let's do it. And I'm so grateful that I was the big wuss on set, because I would so much rather be the one wimp getting pulled through that experience than like the slave driver trying to force everyone to work. And like, it was a reminder that we were all there for the right reason. Like we're all there to make this movie. We're not there to be comfortable. We're not there to always have a good time. We're there because we believe in this. And it was a really special thing.
As a lower budget indie horror film, you and probably many people on the set have to be kind of a jack of all trades, hands-on. You're doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. You also have a role in the film. And
I do.
How is it, working not only in front of the camera, but you're behind the camera, as well as all the barrel fires and everything else going on?
It's an absolute nightmare. I am not an experienced film actor. I've done a fair amount of theater acting, but I have not been in front of the camera very much. And I certainly have very little experience directing myself. You can't direct yourself. Trying to put my director hat aside and just do the acting part, while at the same time, I'm still the director. I'm still directing the movie. It was awful. It was like incredibly stressful. It was not fun at all. But then when it's all over with, I see myself on camera and I think it works fine. So I'm happy that I made that choice. I'm happy that I cast myself in that role, and I want to do more film acting in the future. But while we were shooting those scenes, I was not having a good time. I think I was at my most unpleasant during those moments. Especially there was one shot that was kind of like a long, complex tracking shot where I was also acting. So it's like, but I can't even see the monitor because I'm in the shot. Horrible. It was horrible.
But, all said, you got through the movie, it's together, and you're having your world premiere at FrightFest in London on the 23rd. I mean, how does that feel to FrightFest is one of the big festivals known for horror.
Yeah.
To be able to premiere at FrightFest.
It feels incredible. I mean, I've never made a horror film before this one. I've been making films for 20 years. This is my first horror film. We had, like I said, we have virtually no budget. My producers, it was their first feature. A lot of people on this movie, actors included, making their first feature. So we didn't know. We knew we had a great location, right? And a story that we believed in, and like a team that at least liked each other. But we didn't know if it was going to work, if it was going to make sense, if it was going to play anywhere beyond that little community. And so it feels like an incredible validation to be here in London, to get to premiere it at FrightFest. It feels like it's the dream, right? The dream is that eventually the whole world sees what you saw. And like we all saw it in the woods in Maryland, during our 3 or 4 weeks of hell and heaven. But you don't know. You don't know if it's going to connect to the world outside. And when it does, it's magic.
What's the future for the Haunted Forest after FrightFest? Is it going to play some other festivals, or I guess whatever you can talk about? There might be some things you can't say yet.
Yeah, there are things I cannot talk about. Yeah, we do have a couple other festivals lined up, but the main thing right now is we're talking with distributors. We have a few different conversations going right now. I think we're going to get to something very soon, but I am not in a position to announce. I won't be in a position to announce until after the festival.
That's fair.
So I think we're going to have a distributor that we're really happy with, but unfortunately, that's all I can say.
Once people start to see it, what do you hope that people get out of the Haunted Forest? I mean, it is a very much more character-driven horror film than some might think.
Yeah, and I think if what you want from your slasher film is like maximum blood and guts, it's absolutely not the movie for you. I mean, my dream is that it will play for horror fans and also, you know, their parents or their friends who aren't horror fans or their spouses who aren't horror fans. Like, I want it to be a crossover movie. I don't want it to feel like diet horror, but I also don't want it to be so disgusting that like an average person can't walk into the theater and have a good time. And I think about like a film like Scream, which for me is in that category. It's like, it's bloody enough, you get the point, but also you could sit down with your whole family and watch Scream and everyone would enjoy it. So that's my hope. My hope is that there's something in it for everyone.
As we kind of wrapping up here, where can people follow along, not only to you, but the Haunted Forest, to kind of see its journey and when it comes out all over?
Yeah, well, we have an Instagram account, and I should definitely know off the top of my head what it is. I want to say it's Haunted Forest Film. I am also on Instagram at Keith Boynton, and I'm a great follow. It's mostly like pretty pictures of fields and stuff. It is Haunted Forest Film.
Okay.
Haunted Forest Film on Instagram. That is our film. I am Keith Boynton, and Instagram is where it all comes together.
Keith, I know we didn't have a ton of time, but I wish you all the best with this, and I hope that your world premiere this coming weekend just is awesome.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Hopefully we'll get to talk again in the future.
That would be awesome. Hey, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
So I want to thank Keith again for chatting with me. This was his first horror movie he's done. I will tell you, the Grayson, who is our lead in this movie, is really good. There are a few good kills in it. As we were going along, I was like, oh, there were a few scenes where I kind of wanted more from it. But this movie really hits heavier on the character side of things, the relationships that these characters are building. Like Grayson, his character is kind of like I don't want to say oddball, but he's like the new kid trying to find his place, trying to fit in. You know, he has a friend that he chats to, and he's trying to figure out what he wants. What I love, there are scenes, because he does art, and there are scenes where it kind of cuts to almost like your typical cliched horror type movies, where it's the art that he's drawing, but he's imagining a scene from this film in his mind. We're seeing that scene kind of play out, and then we kind of cut back and see the art and everything else. I liked the characters in this movie. I liked seeing part of this haunted forest. We get a killer, a masked killer. Things are happening, and the story kind of opens up more and more as it moves along to figure out, you know, another one. Who's doing this? Why are they doing this? What is the motivation behind these characters? I wanted more of his kind of daydreaming little horror stories, because those were kind of fun. And as I was watching it, I was thinking of the film Haunt Season, which also takes place in a haunted attraction with a killer going through this area, that I was like, oh man, these two movies would play good double featured together. But again, add another movie to add to that watch list to watch for in the future, The Haunted Forest. This was just a fun time, and I honestly, like I just said, I want to watch it with Haunt Season as like a haunted attraction double feature. All right, we're moving on to our next one, and that is Noseeums. Written and directed by Raven Deshay Carter. Fresh from her toxic relationship, a curious college student, Ember, reluctantly agrees to a weekend trip with her roommate and wealthy white friends, in quotes, to a secluded lake house in the Florida backwoods. When she arrives at this unsettling land, it becomes familiar as she unearths troubled spirits that owned it and seeks to reclaim it. Movie stars Aaliyah Burt, Jasmine Gia Nguyen, Trisha Arrozqueta, Tabby Getzy, Jesse Roddy, and many others. And this movie was a full mixed bag for me. Like, honestly, out of all of them I watched, this was the one that was a bit of a miss. You know, it deals with this subject matter of privilege, money, racism, you know, stories that we've seen similar to like Get Out, Candyman, current movie Sinners. A story that, I mean, we've seen stories like this before, and they are stories that need to be told. People need to be aware of. The thing with this one just kind of felt, there were pieces of it that just kind of felt forced. It didn't always know how it wanted to portray this story. And then, you know, there are scenes of these flies where it kind of, you know, makes you think of the bees in Candyman, but there's these flies, and it made me laugh because unfortunately the CGI in it was awful. Like the CGI flies were terrible. There's a scene that honestly kind of made me chuckle a bit at the end where the flies kill a character, and it took me out of the movie. This one, the Noseeums, just, it didn't fully work for me. It had the concept, the story was there. It was just the execution to get us to what it wanted to say just didn't work. Unfortunately, like Noseeums, out of the movies that I talked about this time, Noseeums I can't fully recommend because it just, the execution of the whole story just didn't work. It was one of those like, go rewatch Get Out or Candyman or even Sinners because they just work better. So the last one, like I said, Super Happy Fun Clown, I have not watched yet. I will be talking to Patrick Ray later this week. Watch for that episode coming out next week. Well, that will do it for my watches for FrightFest. My top are Your Host, Pig Hill, 213 Bones was right up there, very good. Then we had Self-Help, The Haunted Forest, Super Happy Fun Clown, which I haven't watched yet. Noseeums was the one that was the full miss. There are many other films that played during FrightFest. Hopefully I can cover FrightFest again next year. They play some awesome movies. Getting ready here in just a few weeks, I will kick off coverage for Fantastic Fest, which will start in mid-September. I'll have a whole host of movies to cover for you over there. Make sure you follow not only the show here, but follow me online on Instagram and TikTok. Just look for Old Man Brad Pod, because I will put quick thoughts on a movie when I watch them. I throw those up after I watch it and then give you the full recap here in the show. Before I go, I want to tell you our lives are the sum of our choices. Bring home Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning on digital now. Tom Cruise stars as Ethan Hunt in this action-packed thrill ride that film critics are calling the biggest and wildest mission yet. Go inside the incredible stunts with over 50 minutes of jaw-dropping extras when you buy it on digital. It's available participating retailers from Paramount Pictures, and I have a couple codes, digital codes for Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Just email me, oldmanbradpod@gmail.com. First come, first serve. I will send a code to you. And make sure you subscribe to the show. New name, same show, Tomb of Terrors. I am excited for the future, not only of this show, but everything else. I want to thank everybody who listens to the show, who has just discovered the show. I hope you loved it. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episode, whether it is recaps like this, short reviews, interviews, guests on the show, versus Tales from Tubi, all a variety of things that will be part of Tomb of Terrors with me, Old Man Brad. I'll be back soon with a brand new episode. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.